.com. That's JENNINGS.com. Or you can call them 810-231-0200. That's 810-231-0200. Man, my eyes are getting bad.
We got to do an optometrist next. Maybe we get you a deal.
I know. But yes, definitely do some planning, right? When a crisis hits your family, the last thing you want to be worrying about is money and plans and everything else. Get that stuff out of the way, especially if you're older.
Go shopping, find the people that are going to be there for you in that time, and start with Bork Jennings, because they are good people. They are not plastic. They are not, in this time of... Yeah. No, they are genuine people. Yeah, and educated in therapies and all kinds of stuff, so they really understand what happens. So Bork Jennings, I can't speak more highly of them. 810-231-0200. Call Bork Jennings and make your future plans. Doesn't hurt. Okay, so we're talking about the win for MAGA. Right? Looks like the Mexicans. We're winning. Are you sick of winning yet? No.
I'm not sick of winning yet. But imagine
I fear being on this high so long, I've become jaded to winning,
Well, here's what really bothers me, though. After 2 years of good stuff happening, despite 98% negative coverage by the mainstream media, despite all the naysayers from the Democratic Party and even our own party, the Republicans and conservatives, they still haven't learned.
The majority leader says, I want to see Trump in jail. He's checking his calendar to see when he can visit her.
I'd like to see Nancy in jail myself. Yeah. But even Ted Cruz, who's normally we consider a real conservative, right? Just didn't quite get it yet. Derek, you got that track
Why
of
did he
Ted
have
Cruz?
to say something?
Exactly. These guys just can't keep their mouths shut, as Joe said earlier. Go ahead and play that track.
I understand that the president is frustrated with congressional Democrats refusing to do their job or to do anything to fix this crisis. That being said, this is the wrong solution to the crisis.
Really, Ted?
Oops.
That little blurb.
Hey, live and learn, Let's not shoot Ted just because he screwed up, or I'd be dead 5 times over.
No, come on. Republicans, learn your lesson. Keep your yaps shut during a negotiation.
Support the winner.
If I stood up and said something dumb like that when I was in the middle of negotiating with a customer, I'd be fired.
Wouldn't it be good if Ted today spoke up and said, you know something? In retrospect, I said something very stupid.
Yes.
For the first time in my life, I said something very stupid.
I would like one person who was a naysayer just to come out and say, you know what? President was right. Yep. Hello. Imagine... You would get my respect if you said, what, I was wrong, the president was right.
Imagine Trump's Twitter, if that was the case.
It brings new credence to the term, you got trumped.
Right? Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm going to say this, thank you, Mexico, for doing more to help us, at least verbally at this point. We got to see the proof, than our own Democratic Party. Yeah. And even more than some of our own Republicans.
Well, my take on it originally when Trump mentioned the tariffs was that he's expecting Mexico to do something for us that our own government won't.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah. and for these Democrats to keep saying there's no crisis, there's no crisis. There was an interesting story I put on thedailydrift.com this week. 500 African immigrants showed up at the border on our southern border, and were apprehended. 500 in one day. That was
May 30th. They were Mexican
30th.
Africans. They're Mexo-Africans,
Africans. They were from Angola, right?
Oh, okay.
They were from
I know.
the mainland Africa, the continent of Africa.
Surprised they're not from Somalia.
Well, they were. They were Somalia, Angola, come on, communists, right?
Yeah.
Is it Cuba helping them get here? Is it George Soros helping them get here? Who's helping them get here?
When you flood the field like that, somebody's going to get through that wanted to get through to do something really, really bad.
That's the scary part,
yes.
Right? You don't know if you caught 500, what about the 10 that snuck around while you were busy? Because our guys are overwhelmed. They really are. We've got a track here from Art Del Cueto, who's the vice president of the Border Patrol Union. And this is one union I fully support. I'm not really a union guy most of the time. This guy and the Border Patrol Union have all my support.
Well, it's not like they're shaking down the government or, we'll go, they've only got one employer. It's not like the big three and playing them against each other.
You know what? And they're already underpaid.
Yeah.
I'll say most of our Border Patrol guys are
for what
highly
they do.
underpaid.
Yeah.
Derek, you got track 4 ready? Let's go ahead and play the interview. It's from the American Mirror with Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the Border Patrol Union.
Joining me now from Tucson, Arizona, Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cueto. Art, fresh numbers. This is from Princeton Policy, and they crunch these numbers. I don't know if you ever heard of these folks. They're very good at it. They say 115,000 apprehensions. That's a preliminary number for the month of May. Those are the raw numbers. 650,000 for the year so far. I don't know how that jives with your numbers. But the bottom line is our system is overwhelmed. I don't have to tell you that. What do you do? What does Border Patrol do? You hear the president, of course, giving you accolades and saying you're doing a marvelous job, but what in the world do you do with all of those people?
Well, I'll tell you what they're doing with those people is the majority of them are being released in the United States, hoping that they show up for their court date, and the percentages are very, very low of what does show up. So what's unfortunate is, obviously, these people are being apprehended, which sounds great. But what a lot of people are not reporting on or failing to report is these large numbers that are being detained are also being released within the country, and that is a huge problem.
That's what the president is trying to stop, the so-called catch and release. And we have some welcome news in the effort to stem the flow. There's a judge who has a brain, apparently, in Washington, D.C. It's a Trump-appointed judge. He says, yes, the president can use military money to build the wall, but that's down the road. But it is some good news. The bad news is, Art, I hate to break this to you, but the House of Representatives, in its upcoming new budget for Department of Homeland Security, as far as funding for the wall, zero.
Traitors.
A big fat goose egg.
Right. And then you know what? With the funding for the wall, obviously it's helpful because it can funnel where we want the groups to go.
Right.
But the big issue, you got me?
Yeah.
Okay, the big issue is going to be the law itself allows these individuals to come into the United States and be able to claim asylum, and they're being released. So at this point, even the wall, though very hopeful and very helpful, is not going to be the be-all, end-all unless Congress decides to help us with a lot of these laws.
Okay.
So what bothers me about this is that, like he said, they're coming in and they're being released. They're not just being released to wander around. They're being put on airplanes.
Without documentation.
Yeah, airplanes. Yeah. We're paying put them on a bus or a train or get a military convoy or let them, heck, they rode through Mexico on the top of the beast. Let them hobo it through wherever they want to go. New York City, fine.
Put them on a bus and ship them back across the border. Which
or
is
San Francisco. Well, yeah, that would be great. Right? But we can't.
Yeah.
Because they're asylum seekers. And we got Democrats in Congress. So send them to San Francisco via bus or train. Yeah, but airplane?
Yeah. Which is why, of course, we need a barrier to keep them on the other side of the border so they can't claim asylum.
But even then, if that border were 10 feet inside, if that wall were 10 feet inside and they approach the wall at 10 feet, they can shout up, I claim asylum, and somebody's actually got to open the door for them or throw them a rope to bring them over.
Then I hire deaf people.
That's why we need to change the law.
I can't hear you. No hablos español.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate. You notice most of these Border Patrol agents are español,
yes,
Yeah. Art Del Cueto and some of the other guys I see talking.
The new hiring. You can't speak English. What? No hablo español. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then you're hired. All right. Well, it is a crisis. I mean, you heard him, 650,000 or 65,000 so far this year. And June's not over with. 115 in May. We're looking at over 1.2 million based on that alone.
It's going to be 2 years at this rate because the Dems aren't going to do anything. Unless Mexico follows through and stems the flow and we go back to the normal trickle of Mexican migrants who come and go.
Right. It's mind-boggling to me that the Democrats are throwing everything to the wind and not even making the attempt to look like they care about America anymore. They're really
to them to care about America is to impeach Trump. That's their care about America platform.
Well, let's see.
Orange man bad.
So exactly, folks. The 2020 election is right around the corner. Don't dawdle. Make sure you're not only voting this year or next year. Make sure you're campaigning for conservative common sense opinions, right? Jeez Louise.
Hey,
All right, well,
you don't have it on the list. Can I talk about something very quickly?
Sure.
You're aware of this Oberlin College bakery incident?
I have not heard that.
Okay, so Oberlin College, private college, and there's a bakery in town. It's been around for over 100 years, and they would bake for events on college even. They were hired to cater events on campus, and they're just very popular. And I forget when it was, I think it was last year, some students of a non-white minority, I don't know how to phrase this, okay? People who might be pro-Black Lives Matter type people, you know? There were 3 of them, and they were shoplifting. And Oberlin the bakery, I'm sorry, it's not Oberlin Bakery, it's this bakery in Oberlin. They pressed charges. And so a student campus group started calling them racist and started boycotting them and then protesting them and blockading their doors, and then got the college to cancel all its contracts with them.
No, that's outrageous.
Okay, and then basically they just won, I think it's an $11 million lawsuit against
the college?
Oberlin College.
Nice.
Yes, and
Good.
that just happened yesterday.
Good for them.
$11 million. Yep, it's Gibson's Bakery in Oberlin, Ohio.
Well, because you know what? Thievery is thievery. You're a thief. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Exactly.
If you're a thief, you're a thief.
Yeah.
You
They
know,
weren't-
press charges against them. We need to stop with this political
They weren't
correct
poor, starving
nonsense.
students.
Yeah. If you're breaking the law, you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It shouldn't matter what color you are. It shouldn't matter what party you're in. It shouldn't matter what sex or gender you are or what your preferences are. Equal under the law. We should all be prosecuted if we're doing something bad. Mm-hmm. And we should be rewarded if we're doing something good.
But look how libs target bakeries. You know, what is it with bakeries?
Because they don't want us eating bakery goods and getting fat. Maybe
There you
they're
go.
trying to be
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
They're forcing their agenda on us.
Another note, a friend of mine wanted us to go downtown Ypsi to see this friend. Her husband was playing at Ypsi Ale House. I normally wouldn't go to an ale house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So it's downtown, and we couldn't find a parking spot. I told Sherry, I said, what the heck? Is the circus in town? All these multicolor-haired. And then it became obvious. It must have been a gay pride event right in front of Deja Vu.
The rainbow stuff.
Yeah. Oh, it was pathetic. I felt like,
Unless you're gay, then they probably enjoyed it.
I mean, it was like a carnival. Not just a happy carnival. The dress and the actions, the activities. Like, hey, you want to be gay? That's fine, but you don't have to be atrocious. You know,
if you're dressing like Freddie Mercury and walking down the street, that could be. That
was worse than that. We were forced in traffic, and I had to stare over there. Oh, lady, I can see everything, please. And it wasn't
Son,
attractive.
close
It
your
was
eyes.
not
I don't want you to
attractive
see
either.
that.
You know. Well, anyways, so much for local news.
Well,
yeah.
Speaking of that, there was I didn't pay much attention because I was like, I don't really care about people's sex or genders or anything else. It's what you do is your business. I don't care what you do. Just don't force it on me.
Yeah,
right?
there you go. Yep.
They had the straight.
And don't make
pride,
me pay for it.
The straight pride event in Boston, I think, was this
Oh
last
yeah,
week.
yeah.
And the turmoil, oh, you can't. I'm like, wait a minute. If you're going to do a gay pride parade, you should be able to do a heterosexual parade.
And what the gays are saying is that, the straight pride was reaction formation. Therefore, the guys who are going through putting reaction formation is where almost like imprinting your beliefs on somebody else, like what we're talking about.
Right.
So reaction formation. No, I'm sorry.
It's quid pro quo, man. If you can do it, I can do it.
But they're
That's the way
implying
it
that
is.
the guys who did it must be gay themselves, and they're overreacting because they're trying to tamp down their own gay tendencies and act more macho by having a straight parade.
All right,
man.
whatever. If you want to psychoanalyze
Exactly.
the competition, I guess that's kind of crazy. Well, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so I wanted to get into your favorite.
Let's take some of Pastor Rick's. He's not using it.
Let's talk about Joe Biden. Old foot and mouth Joe.
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe. Creepy Joe.
Yeah. Who's he
there's-
touched now, Gary?
I still laugh about his wife removing his hands from her when she was introducing him on the thing.
I did not see that.
It's a great video.
Oh, I'll look.
It's probably innocuous. I'm sure it means nothing, but it's just a lot of people are like, look, even his wife doesn't want him touching her. But,
What's he done now?
Well, so Joe, flipped on the Hyde Amendment.
Oh,
right?
yes.
And even
yes.
David Axelrod came out and said, you know what? Joe Biden's done on this one because he was against the Hyde Amendment, and he's for the Hyde Amendment.